Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we have an incredible, I'm pretty sure that we are going to have an incredible conversation. My guest is someone very special and he has been doing such an incredible work that I cannot even introduce him. So I'm going to pass the word and say, welcome, Aniruddha. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I hope so.
Yes, that was good enough. Yes, my spiritual name is Aniruddhan. So, and it's nice to be here with you all. So, yeah, let me give you just a brief background. I don't mean to use New Age languaging, but I'm going to just say a few things. You know, later in my life, I came across the information of star seeds in indigo children. When I came across the information, I realized that's who I was because I had such a difficult childhood. So, the only thing I could say about how I realized I was a starseed and a indigo child was, at the time I was born in 1961 in California. I didn't fit in so well. And so that's one of the main things with the indigo or the starseed is, as a child, I really felt like I was on the wrong planet. I really didn't feel the earth was my home. I was always drawn to go outside and look at the stars as a very young child. And it's very interesting, as a child, I always looked at the Pleiades. I never knew why I was so attracted. So this is a very strange thing. Only in my late 20s, when I did stargazing with a telescope, and we looked at the Pleiades, and we were with this great telescope, and we were looking at the Pleiades, I looked up and I realized, oh my gosh, as a kid, that was the one constellation I always looked at. So I know it's a little strange, but I was always attracted to those 7 stars.
Incredible.
And only later in my life, I realized out of the entire sky, that was always the place I looked.
Always the same place.
Always the 7 sisters. I always looked at them. So, it was very interesting later in life when even recently I read about a starseed. In reading about it always confirms, that's who I am. Now, again, when we realize these things, it's usually a gut feeling. No one ever really told me. But if you understand a little bit about what they call the indigos and the starseeds, it's not so easy to be one. So long story short, as a kid, at a very young age, I did healing. I always did healing with my brothers and sisters. Everybody wanted me to give them massages. I never studied when I was young, but I gave massages. I was good at touching and healing with my hands. So, we're talking as a child, I did this. So, and I always was one to put my hands on people, and I was really good at relaxing people. And so, there were natural things that were nice again, but then again, as far as the educational system and as far as fitting in, it was hard for me with my own age group. Again, in some ways I was more mature, and so I didn't relate to my own age group. It was a little bit difficult because I was not so comfortable with kids my age. So I would gravitate towards the teachers and the adults. But because I had this natural attraction to healing, then when I did finish, the educational system, the high school system, I was very much into sports, so it was sports and rock climbing and skiing. So I was able to do a lot of really nice outdoor sports and kayaking. And again, I did many, many outdoor sports. So I really enjoyed that. It was one of the places I took refuge. So I was, more
it was
comfortable
your safe place, right? Like your safe place was there.
yeah, in nature. So, you know, and then I did pursue the healing arts. So I went to a healing art college. I immediately did massage therapy, got a job in 1981 as a massage therapist, did a healing vapor caves in Colorado. And, you know, I didn't have to be licensed at that time. You know, I got the job because I gave the owner a massage. And
He
so,
loves it.
because, yeah. So immediately, you know, and the owner initiated me into Reiki. So in
Oh,
1981, I got initiated into Reiki, and the owner did it for free and said, "Oh, your hands are great. Here, let me give you this," and gave me all the Reiki initiations and stuff. So, you know, I naturally did that. I really enjoyed that. And again, and that was something that over my lifetime, I did different types of healings and was drawn to, again, more shamanic work. So I was drawn, and I had experiences and had very many encounters, so that you know, shamanism came into my life, not because I pursued it, because it showed up at my door. So, and then, you know, many teachers came to me. It was rather interesting how that happened. So, you know, and I always was one to be a little more following synchronicities or going with the flow. You know, I was a little bit different in the way of how I was moved in life. You know, I was drawn to, I would be in the right place at the right time. My life is just full of being in the right place, at meeting the right people at the right time. And so, you know, my life is sort of full of that. And that is one of the things, you know, that is part of being more involved in the healing arts and stuff. And that's the nature. Now, later on, you know, I did many studies, again, did psychic surgeries and studies and massage and shamanic work and what we call soul recapturing. You know, a lot of this stuff came because I learned from masters that just taught me. I never went to schools. I learned in their houses. I was
oh,
taught in,
incredible. You
yeah, I
never
was
went to
taught,
college, for instance, for doing some kind of workshop in that area? You learned
no,
directly from masters?
I, I lived in their houses. I went in tribes. I lived in community. I ended up at the time in a non-commercial way. Everyone that taught me took me under their wing and taught me one to one. I never did commercial. I never paid for the training I got. So that was incredible. And, you know, only when in the early 1990s, I was deeply involved in yoga. So when I got deeply involved in yoga, the yogi that I was studying with also was very personal, and I did a lot of personal work. It wasn't a class, but I did classes also. And he initiated a few of us to be certified in the system that he taught. He had his own school.
Oh,
So
okay.
a few of us did become certified to teach a very specialized type of hatha yoga that he developed. And that I was the only time I did pay. I paid for that certification course. And then after that is when I started involved in energetic therapy. I started paying to do certification courses. And it's at that point I started getting more involved in the commercial certification process of healing arts. So I did energetic therapies. My Reiki was free. I got Reiki for free, but the
That was
yoga and
awesome.
then, yeah. And then, you know, the massage, I went to massage school and I did go through that, but I didn't finish because I was already a very good masseur. And I had my own style. And so I had contradictions with learning these specific techniques to get a license. And there was a point where I decided I don't need a license to do massage. So halfway through the school, I discontinued going to the school. I just decided I don't need a license. it was sort of because I had training and I was taught in ways that there were contradictions in the way that I was being told I had to do these classes and get licensed. So, you know, I was younger and I was a little stubborn, and I said, well, that's not the system I know. So I just followed the system I knew. Again, because I was trained with one-on-one with healers. I was trained. And so I realized some of what I learned was not something I could be taught, and it wasn't so commercial, or it wasn't a certain style. And so I just decided, okay, I don't have to have a license. But I did go through certification in vortex healing, which is a very interesting modality. And I did extensive training in that. So I've done all over the world courses in that, which is energetic therapy. You know, that was the one time where, you know, and this is a good story just to tell. There was a time in my life when I heard about energetic therapy, when I first started it. And I heard about that you could heal somebody. You didn't have to know them. They could be halfway around the world, and you could hook up, connect to them, and you could send healing. So when I first heard about this, I laughed. I laughed.
Yeah, I believe.
And thought, yeah. And I thought, how insane is that? Someone is going to pay money to have
Yeah,
someone heal
exactly.
them from halfway around the world.
Around the world.
Yeah. And the funniest thing is that I thought that when I met the teacher that taught me, I thought that was, the person must be a little stupid to pay money to be healed that way. And within 6 months, I was doing energetic distance healing. And the first time I did it, I had no idea if it worked. But what happened is the people would call me up and tell me that that was the most powerful session they'd ever had. They said to me, that was more powerful than when I've been with you in person. And
Really?
so yeah, so yes, exactly. So then at that point I was like, wow,
This
okay,
works.
this
Really
works.
works.
So yeah, within 6 months, I was doing full-time long distance healing. I was booked 2 weeks in advance. Everybody wanted a session
Wow.
with me. And
Incredible.
yeah, and I was a total beginner, and just realizing, wow, this is incredible. And so within a very short period of time, I was doing what I was laughing at, that I thought that was just so ridiculous. So there was a huge change in my consciousness at that point. And as I studied for more than 15 years, as I studied after that for more than 15 years in energetic therapy, you know, I got to the point where, you know, I realized that somebody could call me on the phone and say, my friend is in the hospital. And I'd just say their name. And all they'd have to do is say their name, and I'd say, think about them. And I'd immediately connect to the person they're thinking about that I never met, and I didn't even know the location that they were. But
That is
because
awesome.
yeah. So when that happened, then I realized, wow, so I can bridge. I'm bridging through a person's
Precisely.
consciousness, and I'm connecting through them to someone,
To
directly
someone else.
connecting to, yeah, in real time,
That
and
is
working on them
amazing.
in real time. Yeah. So at that point, that really blew open all the areas of my life where I realized, you know, that the only thing in the way was me. And then I just started looking at, you know, that I'm the only one that's blocking myself. You know, and then I had the experience that it works. And so obviously because of that, then there was no more conflict. There was
Yeah.
no more resistance or opposition. And so one of the things that I want to end with is, and yes, I have studied biological decoding, which is one of the most amazing art forms. And it's very scientific, developed by a doctor. Again, if you just want to look it up, you can look up biological decoding. I'm not going to try to advertise other works, but it is very much based on a medical science, and it's about how emotion and disease and consciousness and the traumas we experience, how they create specific diseases, and the way we receive information can create very specific diseases depending on how we react to the information. So it's about healing disease and the root cause and tracking down the root. And it's very scientific and it's very precise. So I studied that. I did many courses. I'm certified in that. I took on and did many other certifications, and have branched out in vibrational healing, which is using my voice, tonal healing, pineal healing, doing pineal activations, doing tonal activations and healing. And then, in that process, my own system of healing came to me. So in that, it's like, that's where the star seed and that's where the indigo thing came. I sort of brought a system of healing that came through me that is, it's very advanced. It is a quantum type of healing. So the system that I teach and that I work with is called the Divine Diamond. Again, it's a little hard to describe it because it has a quantum aspect, which is, and if we're going to use language, has a multi-dimensional aspect. So it's working in higher dimensions. So it gets a little more difficult when you're starting to work in those higher dimensions. But the idea of working in real time and doing the other types of healings that I was doing, like vortex healing and this energetic healing, and even psychic surgeries, you are working in beyond the third dimension. You're working in higher dimensional aspects of the body. And you're actually doing things without using a knife, but you're actually, again, you're working within physical tissue in higher dimensions. You're doing things within the human body. You're moving energy within a human body on a higher level than a physical level. Even if it is cellular communication, you're working with the communication of the cell in an electromagnetic way. So you're directly communicating through electromagnetic intelligence, through the intelligence of light. And you are able to manipulate the physical body. You're able to actually change some of the structure in the cells, but
That's
you're changing.
incredible.
Yeah, that change again is communicational, using electromagnetic and using light frequencies, using multidimensional frequencies, communicating directly with the cells, and then giving information to the cells from which they take the information in and they change. So
Wow.
you can alter, again, the way the physical body is being, I say manifesting a disease, the way the physical body is manifesting a tumor or a malnormity, an abnormality. So if the physical body has an abnormality, there's something that is not functioning normally. So there's something interfering, impeding the normal functioning of the organ, the normal energy that it needs to function properly. So in that way, without surgery and without medication, you're communicating. And the level of which you're communicating, we can call it a spiritual level, or again, a quantum level, or a multidimensional level. And again, if we're technically talking about it, there's a language, what we call electromagnetic, multi-layered language. There's a language of light. So there's a multi-dimensional language that when you understand sort of how to access that, you're able to actually alter cellular structures, and you're able to actually change in literally rearrange molecules. You actually can rearrange the inside of a body through electromagnetic intelligence. Now, the last area that ended up becoming really clear in the work I do is that when we are working in this area of quantum healing, and we are working as like the individual Aniruddhan, that I am individually using my intention and I am doing a healing with someone, I'm accessing what I call divine physicians. So I've always said I have a legion. I have thousands of helpers. And I'm accessing, now even when I access these helpers, they're all part of my family of light. They are part of me. Now they are, and they would be seen as separate from me. But again, in this understanding that they're part of a family, they're part of my family, like a tree. They're part
I'm
of the
understanding.
tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the tree is huge that I am working through, and the aspects of the tree that I am connected to, they have individual talents and individual abilities. Like you say, you know, I call them the divine physicians. You can also sometimes call them, I call them physicians because they're, you know, they're intelligently trained in the field of which you're calling upon them, the healing aspect. But you can also call them entities of light, that they're light beings, light helpers, light entities. You could call them angels. Some of them are like that. They're, you know, angels of healing, you know, like Raphael. And they're assisting, and they're the ones that are flowing through and working through the intention of which I'm directing, like a painter.
So you are guided,
So,
right? You are guided by them.
yeah, I'm guided by,
Oriented.
and also sometimes I just allow them be through my intention. I allow them to do what is best for the individual. So now the fundamental principles of this is it's always by permission. So when I work with someone, I tell them, you know, you're the one, you know, that it's up to you, you know, that you can stop at any time the process by just saying stop. I don't stop, and the process will stop. You know, it's up to you. If you're the one that is seeking to have the healing, it's because you are asking, and you're receiving it because you're asking. So it's always by permission. You know, if somebody says, will you heal my friend? I'll have to say, well, I have to ask them, because
Precisely.
for me
Yeah.
to heal, they have to give permission. So in working with this energy of love, or this divine benevolent energy, it's always by permission. And you can never really help anyone that is not receptive to receiving the help. You know, even they say with prayer can help someone, but they have to be receptive to receive the prayer.
Precisely.
So
Yes.
if somebody's got the door closed and they're like, I don't want your prayers, and I don't want to receive love, and I don't want to receive the energy of your blessings, and I don't want, you know, it doesn't mean that the energy that you would send wouldn't go sort of around where they are. But it's true, if they close the windows and the doors, it really won't enter. It's not invasive, it's not forceful. Now, it can enter, but it has to be by permission. Someone has to open the door and the window and let the light in.
Come in.
So,
Precisely. It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
important
So,
that the people say, yes, I give you the
yeah,
permission. I'm open to it.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's not going to work as is expected, right?
yes,
So you do
yes,
an
yes. So,
incredible job. It's an
well,
incredible job.
actually, the funny thing is when we do this, you know, when you really understand and you're doing this, you know, I do it like a child and a student. You know, we do things and when we really work with this, you know, with a great open heart and an openness, we're listening, you know, we're working in a moment to moment basis. So we don't really have a protocol, because when you're working like this, it's like all of a sudden you feel like something's necessary. And so you just look in that direction. You sort of sense something, you go that way. And sometimes you go that way and you feel like, oh, that's not working. And you
That's not
come
the
back
right way.
and you go, yeah, you go another way. So it is a little bit different in that you're not following a set protocol. I mean, you have a protocol, you like have a recipe, you have a recipe, but you know, some person may want it a little sweeter, some person wants it spicier, you know, one person likes bitter. So, you know, you're sort of adjusting the recipe to each
It's a little
individual.
bit like unpredictable, right? You never know what's going to really, you know what will happen, but in what way will you work? Depends.
Yeah, the individual, again, one person may need sweet, one person may need bitter, one person may need astringent, one person wants spicy, and literally it's almost like that. You might have to throw a little pepper or a little sugar, little, you know, lemon juice, a little sour, you know. So it's sort of each individual is going to respond a little differently, and you are going to sort of have to make a recipe, you know. So it's so in that way, you're sort of a student, you know, and you're always just, there's a little bit of uh, momentary being present in the moment to what's appropriate. Now, the other aspect is, again, these higher physicians and these higher conscious beings that are helping, they know and communicate with the other person's collective conscience and their higher selves. And so, you know, they're communicating directly to the intelligence of the person's body. And again, their guides, and everybody has their own higher knowledge and wisdom. So they're communicating directly with that. And, you know, so that everything is being orchestrated and implemented. So it's really nice. And you know, you're always learning, you know, you're always listening. Again, there's always a innocent child like beginner's mind. So it's a really healthy way, because you know, you never absolutely know, but you can, in every moment you can get the answers.
Yeah.
But you're not, you know, you're not knowing, but the answers come. What's appropriate can come. And you stay very flexible. Yeah, and you always are staying very open, because at any moment the truths can change, the answers can change, you know, things can, you know, depending again on the situation you're in, you you have to pay more attention to the process that's undergoing. It's that you're involved in the moment. Now, you know, the only other thing that happened in the work that I do is I have an automatic system. So wherever I go, my DNA does healing on everyone that comes in contact with me. So I have sort of, I call it silent music. My body plays frequencies. So I play this silent music, and everybody that comes in contact with me will just tune in and pick that up automatically. So um, so then there's just this constant, you know, silent music that's playing, and it's involved in evolution, and it's involved in the person's personal evolution. So my body is encoded with that, and as I increase that, the field is stronger and stronger, and it's constantly committed to evolution. So it's always evolving people's systems.
That is
And again,
unbelievable.
and well, that's again, and this is more like a DNA thing. It's what a star seed. So it's part of the star seed that I would be involved in. And then as I was personally in my journey, as when I was young, you know, I tore all the ligaments off my atlas of my neck
Oh
at
my
about
God.
8 years old. And I never went to a doctor. So I have scar tissue. I had scar tissue, and I tore and torqued my atlas in my neck and just tore it right off its connection. And by the time I was 22, I had 23-degree scoliosis in my back.
Oh my
I
God.
was, neurosurgeons were saying that I wouldn't walk when I was 30 without a cane, that they
Oh
needed to
my Lord.
operate. My spine in my early 20s looked like they said a 65-year-old spine. They said the amount
Jesus.
of calcification and the
Yeah.
amount of fusion that was in my lower back and the 23-degree angle curve. So there was a point where I went through, because I never went to doctors, I never told anyone I was in pain. So I had tremendous injuries that were tremendously painful. And early on in my life, that pain got to such a point that I had to go and see doctors. Now, once they told me about the knife, there was no way. So there was no way I was going to go under the knife. And then that is where I met also at that time the yoga and the people and the training, and I completely healed my back on my own.
On your own?
I
That's
on my
incredible.
own, yeah. Now, but again, I through yoga and breath work and the breathing, I was able to change my spine and change it to such a point that you would never believe the x-rays that I had as a kid, as a young man, were the same as my back now, because I have a perfect spine.
That is
I also
incredible.
I was able to reverse degeneration. I had spinal and disc degeneration. I was able to reverse it and change the bones of my vertebra. I was able to change my entire neck. I was able to change the scar tissue. Over time, I have been able to heal my back and regenerate the degeneration. I had disc degenerations, and and I mean, the x-rays are pretty ugly. The gray and the black, they looked like an old person's spine. So I was able to completely reverse that, something they say you can't do. And in the process of my, life, there were times where I have come pretty close to dying. I've had parasitic infections, and I've had infections that were so bad that I had dark field blood micropsy work done.
Oh
And
my God.
the doctor that did the blood work said he'd never seen in his whole life blood that dirty. That I had parasites, liver parasites and liver flukes in my liver and in my blood, and brain fluke and parasites. He said that were like, they'll kill you. He said, and they were big. He said the amount of stuff that was in my blood, the amount of parasites that he saw, and the indication of the condition of my blood was so bad that he was surprised I was even walking around.
How could you be alive also,
Now,
right? Like, how can you be
yes.
alive at this point?
Okay. So, interestingly enough, within 48 hours, okay, this is something that I need to tell people because this is something I've experienced. And this is why I do the work I do. Within 48 hours, in the middle of the night, I was, and I have been, but I was hit with like a flash of light. So you could imagine you're laying in bed and you get hit by lightning. And I got hit by a light, or at least I had the experience of a flash of light. And the flash of light was so powerful. The intensity of that light was so powerful that I woke up at 8 o'clock. I woke up earlier, but by 8 o'clock in the morning, I went back to that doctor that did the blood micropsy, and I said, test me again. And he says, no, I'm not going to test you again. I just tested you. I'm busy. I don't have time. I have all these patients. And I sat in his office and I said, I am not leaving until you test me. So he said, okay, you're going to have to wait. So I had to wait like 2 hours. as he tests, you know, working with other people in his office. And so he tested me again, you know, poked my finger, took a drop of blood, you know, looked at it, and he came back out of his office and he poked my finger again and he took another drop of blood and he looked at it and he came back out of his office and he says, he's just looks at me and he says, "This is the cleanest blood I've ever seen." He said, "I've never ever in my whole life seen blood this healthy and this clean." He says, "Your cells are amazing." He says, "I don't understand." He says, your blood was so bad 48 hours ago. Your cells, your white cells, your red cells, the shape of your body, the blood, everything we saw in you was the worst I'd ever seen in my life. And now," he said, "I've never seen blood this good." He
In
says, "Your blood is like,"
48 hours, everything was
and
gone.
well, in that flash of light. So what he did is he said, "You know, I still need to do another thing." He says, I want to let this blood sit for 24 hours and I want to let the blood sit. And he says, "I want you to come back tomorrow and I want to look at what your blood looks like. And because I can tell more in 24 hours, I want to see what happens." So he said, and I came back and he says, "You know, your textbook." He says, "Man, your blood is just off the charts, like unbelievable." He said, and he took another test right then and there, looked at my blood, and he says, "Oh my God," he said, I've never seen
Nothing like
blood
this
so healthy."
before.
Yeah,
That was
so healthy.
amazing. What
Yes.
happened?
Now,
What do you think that was a ray
okay.
of light?
Okay. Well, again, I've been involved what we call miraculous healing. So I've been involved in miraculous healings. I understand a little bit about it. I have been hit by lightning. I've been literally hit and pummeled to the ground by lightning. I have an energy system that allows me to grab electrical lines and they just tickle. So I can grab live electricity and it tickles me. If somebody else was to touch it, it would hurt and it would possibly, you know, not be so good for them. Like it's, so there was a shift in my system at that point that, and I did end up having this happen to me more than once after that. So as that process went, like what they say with starseeds is we get things at certain times. So again, I had to heal myself from severe pain and injury. I literally almost destroyed my physical body through radical infections. I had, you know, very, very severe parasitic infections. You know, I was not in a very strong state. I was strong, but I was in a very critical health. You know, I was able to function, but again, it was a critical state of my health. I was able to recover from that. And the last thing, you know, is I have gone through tremendous loss. So, you know, I've experienced death straight up. And you know, like 16 and a half, 17 years ago almost, my daughter died in my arms. So I got to experience, you know, my daughter dying. Now, and right in my, you know, right in my hands, right in my arms. So what, you know, the only thing is about like that is I said, "Forgive me." And I took responsibility that I knew she died for me. It was a weird thing. So I immediately said, "Thank you." And I said, "Forgive me." And I said, "I'm sorry." Now my wife did the opposite at the time. I'm not with her. She got angry at God. She blamed God and got angry. So she went the opposite way. And I took a fork in the road and I went to responsibility. I took the responsibility and took the blessing. And my wife went into the opposite direction and she went into anger at the time. So, you know, that did destroy the marriage. And, you know, that anger destroyed her to some extent, you know, and and she never recovered. She's never probably ever will recover, because that anger, it's so deep. I don't know if she's able to ever let go. She held it for too long, and so that was very bitter for her. So with these experiences, I had the like deeper awakenings. And the last thing is, that event and some of the events that happened after the death of my daughter were a series of serious tragedies, repeated radical emotional pains and tragedies. Now, because I was a spiritual person, I was able to sort of do forgiveness. I was able to forgive, and was able to not hold on. So I was able to stay flexible and not hold on. But 2 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, I slipped into depression. With all this, and I'd done so many healings on people, and I've done so much amazing, where I've seen miracles, I've experienced them myself numerous times, but I slipped into depression because there was a point where my body was holding the emotional experience.
Of course.
My consciousness was able to detach, and I was able to be aware that it really wasn't me, or it wasn't, I wasn't going to blame myself, but my body, the trauma actually was recorded. And there was a point in my life about 4 or 5 years ago where, even though I didn't think I had depression, there was a certain decision that came, and a certain thing that happened in my life where I was like, okay, it's over. And I dropped my feet, I dropped my guard. I was in a battle for years. I'm like, okay, the war is over. I can put this down. And so I just dropped this guard. And immediately, once I dropped that guard, I just went into years of slowly but surely falling into deeper depression. Now, there were a string of tragedies after that. There was some very betrayals, and there was manipulations and lying. There were situations I was stolen from, I was shot at. So there were still radical traumas that occurred as I was in depression. And there was a point where in the depression, I would witness the depths of not having connection, the depths of losing. And even though I knew that I had the connection, I couldn't find it, I couldn't see it, and I couldn't feel it. And then that was the point where it got so bad, because I couldn't feel it. I knew I had no more desire to do healing and to work with the energies. I lost all motivation. I lost my purpose, which is very bad. To lose your purpose gets really, and my purpose used to be so strong. And again, I lost motivation. There was a point where that depression got deeper and deeper. I call it chemical. So I would see, in one day there would be no hope, and then on the other side there would be hope. So I was fluctuating between saying, okay, everything's going to be okay. This is going to be fine. And then in the same day, there's no reason to be alive. There's no purpose. There's no purpose for me. There's nothing for me to do. There's nothing I could. So I was witnessing this, and I would be shocked at the extremes. And because I had enough of spiritual awareness, like I could always sort of watch this happening, because I have more of a spiritual evolvement. So I was watching it. But after years and years of that, it broke me down. It also took everything from me. I lost pretty much almost everything I owned. I lost everything. And as all of it fell away, I was guided at a time to go and do allopathic treatment. So really at that point, I didn't want to. I didn't really want to take the pills. I didn't want to do it, but I realized I couldn't fix it. The acupuncture I did, the surfing I did, the outdoor recreation I did, you know, the weight training I did, and I was still like physically healthy, but I couldn't change this swinging of wanting to be here and not wanting to be here. So in the guidance, someone told me I needed to take it, and I trusted, and I decided to take medication. I met a good therapist, a psychotherapist, psychiatrist. And I took the right, he's like, you're not a typical depression. He says, because you can work hard, because I was still able to work for others. I couldn't work for myself, but I could work for others. And he says, you can work like 12, 16 hours a day for someone. I said, yeah, no problem. I can work so hard, not for myself, but I can definitely work
for the others.
Yeah. And he said, you know, you're not typical, but he said, okay, you know, I will follow advice, because he was advised that I should probably take this. And he was like, you're not normal. So he gave me sodium valproate, valporic acid, which is for like stage 1 bipolar. It's not really known exactly how it works, but it's helped us, because I had mood swings, and I would tell him, you know, I'm up and I'm down. I'm up and I'm down. I wasn't externalizing it. So I wasn't externalizing when I was down. I was just down. So I was, you know, but I was experiencing it. So then the sodium valproate, valporic acid, has like an 80% success rate at curing bipolar 1. People that do the full treatments and do it properly, they can completely be cured of bipolar 1. And I didn't have more severe, which is manic, sort of a manic state of bipolar, where that's not so easy. That's lifetime medication. So I took it as recommended for 6 months, you know, went up, and then it worked out that it stabilized me. I could sleep, you know, my body returned. I was feeling better. So then he weaned me off, just like I was told. I got weaned off. And that was over 6 months ago. I've been off the meds. Now I've gotten all my energy back. You know, I've been able to recover my system. My energies are way back up. I'm fully engaged back in teaching and in healing in a bit different way, because I've taken the knowledge and I'm now doing a new work. So I have a new work that I'm doing. And the only thing that this wisdom has given me is I can really work with people that have suffered. I know serious spinal injury. I know pain. I know, you know, physical problems that normally would say are uncurable. I can deal with people that doctors can't. I can help people that have had depression, because I know exactly what they have.
Because you've passed for that, so you know what it's like.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I know what it's like. Yeah, and you know, I can help someone, and maybe they don't need medication. It's not, but in general, I can also be a good person to advise them, because the medication's the last thing that I would do, but it was something I needed to do to recorrect the chemical imbalance. You know, my gamma was out in my brain, and I had to rebalance the gamma, and I just couldn't seem to do it naturally. So I took medication. Once my gamma and my sleep came back, and, you know, again, that my chemicals were able to stabilize, and then I was able to come off in a normal state. It's even interesting, you know, when I talk to someone about, you know, the panic, you know, anxiety, you know, and these, you know, panic situations, it's even almost hard for me to remember. I mean, I had them, but it's hard for me to even remember, because I'm not so there anymore. My energies are really good, but I do know what that is, because I did experience it. And it's from this point, of course. Yeah, from this point, it'd be like, wow, it's sort of hard to see that, because, you know, it just doesn't seem like it exists anymore. It's not something I might, but I did have it for years. I had it for years.
Incredible. So you completely, now you can say that you are okay right now. You are no under medication. You can do your energetic work, and everything is fine. That is an
Yeah,
incredible testimony. That is
yeah,
completely something that you can help. I have to say thank you, because your testimony that you are giving here, it's incredible. You will help a lot of people, because
yeah,
probably too many people are in that position and they don't know what to do, or what they're doing it's actually not working right now with them. So that is
right.
incredible what you told us.
So some of the main points is, um, it's really important. If we need to recognize, have we lost our purpose? If we really have, if you're someone out there that feels like, I'm not feeling like I have a purpose, uh, that's really something that you need to find. We need to make sure we reconnect you. So then the second thing is connection. You need connection. You need to feel connection. And, it's okay if you have an alcohol problem or a drug problem, because sometimes that's what the connection is. We go to drugs or alcohol because we're looking for the connection and we don't know how to survive without this connection. So we find a false connection. So, but if we find the connection, then those habits, even very addictive situations, can be changed, because all we have to do is replace the drug or the alcohol with a connection. And if you can really feel that connection, and yes, we do need to have it with someone. So yes, we need it with a motivational person, a coach, someone, a friend. You have to find a human connection. You have to get connected. You have to have a purpose. You have to get back to your purpose. Those two fundamental things are really important. And then the third is that you have to believe you can do it. It's not what the doctor says. I've dealt with people, incurable diseases that are supposed to die, and they never died. I worked with them. I've seen things, and doctors have seen miracles happen because something happened in the process of me working with them. We've had the same kind of things happen: blood work change, leukemia go away, complete cancers in people's bodies are gone, they disappear.
Incredible.
So the main thing is, it's because the person found the connection, because that light that hit me and that I know about went in and they experienced it. They had the flash. They were able to manifest the internal flash, and they were able to clear the disease. They were able to let that love get in and let go of the dis-ease. And a lot of that is emotional. They were able to forgive. They were able to do things like that. So the third thing is, you have to know you can do it. Okay. And the fourth thing is that you do need to work with certain attributes. Okay. So I work with the 7 sacred attributes, and I tell people this is a formula, and it's important that you can take situations in your life. Okay. And you need to look at the formula of love, faith, and patience. You need to have love, you must have faith, and you need to have patience, because you need to forgive and you need to be grateful. So you need to forgive, you need to accept. So that means, you have to have love, faith, and patience, because you have to accept and forgive. Forgive and accept. Okay. So that there can be this sense of gratitude for an experience, because you're able to forgive, you've been
Yeah,
able to accept. When you can forgive and you can accept, there's a gratitude for the
precisely.
experience. And then there's grace. So those are the 7 sacred attributes: love, faith, patience, acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, and grace. That formula needs to be put through your life. And some people say, no, I can't forgive this person. I can't accept what they did. And a lot of times that's the cause of the disease. That's one
Yes.
of the root causes of where they're having a problem. That inability to forgive, to accept and forgive, is what's causing the bitterness in their life. And it can be causing it to the point that body can get a dis-ease. The body can create a cancer.
And that
It
people can
cannot,
really be sick.
yes, they can get sick. So again, that's something I tell people they need to work with. But first and foremost, again, you have to be able to see, have you lost your purpose? You know, you really do need to have connection. We need to rebuild your connection. Really, really important. You know, and then we have to have the volition and the belief that you can do this, that you can find yourself again. You can find the love you need, the connection you need. You can get over this. You can get it back up on the horse. You can get back up on your feet. And then the idea of the 7 sacred attributes is you're going to need love, faith, and patience. And you're going to have to know, you know, the faith is you're just going to have to believe in yourself. You're going to have to believe that there's a purpose to your life. You're going to have to go deep into knowing you can do this. And then you're going to have patience to accept and forgive. And you got to do that. If you follow that formula, you'll feel grateful because you'll learn. You're like, wow, that ability to forgive and accept taught me so much. And now I'm free. I'm so grateful because I'm free from the burden of carrying that bitterness and that this, that, and the other. And then the gratitude and the grace, you know, you get the freedom from it. So this is a formula. This is what I work with in my work right now, the Divine Diamond. The 7 sacred attributes, I call them the language of love. They actually are divine beings. Love is like an angel. Faith, acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, and grace. They're the language of the heart. They're the language of truth. They're eternal. They're not from the mind. They exist in love. They exist forever. They cannot be thought about. You cannot think any of them. They can only be experienced, and they're living energies. They're like a rainbow of your heart. So if we can work with that, if you can use this formula I'm telling you right there, and you can get back up on your feet, and you can work this formula, you can overcome anything with the right coach, the right friend, and you have to believe in yourself. You have to find your purpose. So
that's an incredible advice. An incredible advice that we are giving. We are running out of time. We are already past our
perfect.
time. But that is
well, that's perfect. So
that has been incredible. I just have to say thank you. You give us an incredible testimony about your life, also regarding all these advice that I think that we have to bring them in our life, find our purpose, have the connection, work with all the points that you told. And of course, we need a good mentor or a good friend, like you told. We need to be guided. That is incredible. Do you have some advice to give to the people in a short time of a month, because we don't have too much time? Just
No, actually, that's the way I wanted to end it. You know, I had to tell you the story, and the way I wanted to end it is that formula I gave you. Purpose. You got to find your purpose again. Okay. And again, you have to find the connection. It has to be to yourself. Even if you momentarily, you can connect to Jesus, you can connect to a friend, but there must be some type of connection. And then, you know, once you have those two connections, you have to believe you can do it. You're going to get your life back, and there's a purpose. Again, there's a meaning. You're going to get on the horse and then work with the 7 sacred attributes: love, faith, patience, acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, and grace. That formula there, you can do anything. And look for the flash of light.
It was
look for the flash of light.
Thank you. I have to say thank you. It was an incredible testimony. Your story of life is incredible. Your work is, we all have to say thank you, because you do an incredible work. And the advice that you give to us, I think it's an honor to, you know, share this time with you and to learn with you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all the knowledge that you give to us. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart that you have been here with us.
Okay, great. All right.
Thank you so
sorry
much.
For the long. All right. Sorry for the long story, but the story is part of.
No, it's incredible. I love it. And I'm absolutely sure that everybody's going to love it. It's an incredible testimony. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.